Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? Down here and make sure that's there. That's to the speaker. Can you hear me now? Hello, Tiny Titan. It's showing me a couple of dots, so I'm assuming that I'm transmitting now. Somehow it didn't want to boot up that time, didn't want to do it. Anybody out there? Good. Gray Wolf, can you hear me? Now audio. Thanks, Tiny Titan. Good. Something hiccuped in the upload. Hello, Justin. When I select no ads, no monetize, it wants to argue with you. But you need to monetize. You need to put in mid-rolls. You need to, i.e., we don't want you discussing anything that we can't put stuff on, see? That's not me. That's them. Dennis Fields, hello. Jeff, good evening. Mr. Johnny, hello. Two Waters, hello there. George, hello. Wicked Viking, Kodiak, hello. Briar Smoke, good evening. Yeah, last week we'd had a storm front come through and my internet got real hinky where it was just popping in and out. And I would try to log in and it would say insufficient whatever. And my little icon, I'm on my home computer, it just pop in and out constantly. Something in the line somewhere probably got damaged. So I just wasn't able to get on last week. Sorry, guys. Jim Survival, good evening. Crow, hello to the Tampa area. All right, Gray Wolf, what you want to know? Jerry Donnelly, hello there. Benton, hello. What's your question, Gray Wolf? Diane, good evening. 2020, good evening. Yeah, Briar Smoke, we're going to be in the 70s next couple of days. And it's just, you're going to see it because what that means is that extreme cold air is now sloshed over the other side of the planet. So it's sucking up from the tropics to warm us up. And when it rolls around, that cold will roll back. So figure 3 or 4 days of really unusually warm, and then that cold air is going to come back because it's literally just doing that going around the top. And as it goes to that side, it pulls up warm on this side. Okay, Gray Wolf. Yeah, I'm seeing that, Justin. Y'all will be getting it about a day or so ahead of us. Okay. Think he wants to graduate up to a compound. Dwayne, good evening. Dance was empty. Good evening. How old is he, Gray Wolf? Did you already say how old he was? How big is he? You know. Brian Holbrook, good evening. Jonathan Frisbee, hello, brother. Eric, good evening. Brian Holbrook, good evening. Jerry, yeah. Y'all in the 70s, y'all are in the 40s. Yeah, it's going to dance all the way around. When we get this kind of weather pattern where it really just oscillates, it's like waves flopping back and forth in the pool. 1864 about 260. He can handle a full-size compound. I would look for one of the full-size compounds that's somewhere in the 50, 60 pound range, and then where you can dial it down like a 40. Start out with a 40 pound setting, learn accuracy, then go up in the weight setting. You can take small game easy with a 40 pound and then go up into the 60 pound. And you got to go on up like an 80 pound if you're going to be doing them big grizzlies and moose, because you got to have that kind of penetration power. But I used to teach archery, and that's what I'd recommend. Start them out with about 40 pounds. That's enough to condition the muscles, and go with that. Compound is a less load, of course, when you bring it and break it, but it's a different muscle group because you're holding it. Whereas a standard bow, it's a continuous curve, and you pull it all the way back. It's like a recurve, and you release. So all the muscles are constantly. Well, when you're pulling a compound, it's strength light, and it's an argument of the muscles and a tensioning of the hands and the arms and the muscles, and it makes release a little bit difficult to do consistently every time. And so that's the reason you want to go to something with a trigger release, because that's consistently letting go. And that way the arm can be just at a stiff angle and just let the finger do the work instead of telling that hand with all them muscles tightened up to let go. I have seen some people that were really impressive with the bow. James Singer, good evening. Ground Fog, hello. Miss C, hello. Outback Owl, good evening. That's about right, Gray Wolf. Practice with 40s and then shoot 60s for hunting. But you got to get that muscle memory. You got to get it where you ain't thinking about the bow, you're thinking about the target. You know. Oh, Gray Wolf, I don't know that. You guys out there, if you know of a good today, I had bear bows and I had a nite eagle back in my day. So. Mountaineer Bushcraft and Survival System. Days are in the 60s to 50s down here, and then at night it's dropping down to like the 40s. It was 31 this morning, but it warmed up to the 60s in about 2.5 hours after sunup. So it's like spring, you know, for us. Yeah, Craig, we finally got it. Just something on the boot up. Finally got sound with it. Red Sorghum, good evening. Deacon Faith, hello. Paul, yes, I'll be going to that gathering this year in September. Madison's putting on a gathering up there in West Virginia, and me and Dakota are probably going to be going to that. Wicked Viking, good evening. Andy Knight, good evening to South Georgia. Good evening, Dakota. Dakota's in the house. Yeah. Y'all got all, Mountaineer, you got all that cold, wet stuff went north of us. Will Rowell, hello. Joe, good evening. Deacon Faith, Blackbird 2 updates. They will be, as I talked to Jay the other day, we're still on course. So I'm figuring about 2 to 3 weeks from now is when I should start receiving them. And so I'm betting on shipping out the 1st of March. They should be going out 1st of March. That's the plan. And we'll be doing another run probably about the end of this month. We'll announce another run. Eric Catherine, do you look at Farmer's Almanac for weather? I bought one at the truck stop. Get it? Yeah, they're actually fairly good, and they're going about historic, what the season usually is on this date, looking at 100 years or whatever of what the average conditions was on this date. So it's not horribly off a lot of time. Yeah, you're gonna have some changes, but it is actually a pretty good way to get ideas way ahead too. Yeah, Gray Wolf, the Pearson and all those bows, they haven't gone out of style. The names have still been in. I wish I could introduce you to Steven, a friend of mine. He's a big bow guy. I mean, he plans on taking everything on the continent with a bow. And he's got like 30 different bows for different things. But he's up in North Alabama. Camping Cage Free, thanks for the great information. Glad to help. Jennifer, good evening. John Kennedy, good evening, sir. Yeah. April to go out there and relax at the lake and have them. I'm going to be out there for 2 weeks this time. I took my e-bike out Sunday with the wife and got out there and rode it around the lake some. I'll be bringing that with me, and that big blue Eddy that I did the thing on today. So I'll be able to recharge that bike while I'm out there. So I'm going to plan on bringing the bike, the canoe, and everything else. If I'm going to be out here 2 weeks, by God, I'm going to relax. Will Rowell, do you have any experience with a 300 Weatherby Magnum? In the 1980s, I did. I did some load work up and I built a rifle for somebody in 300 Weatherby Magnum, but that's about as current as I am. I remember basics of it, but that's about it. Ronald Green, good evening. Johnny, Blackie, why doesn't Pyrodex not publish load data for 20 or 12 gauge loads? A lot years ago they did. They used to, every year they would, Hodden or whatever would give out a booklet, and it would have all kinds of loads for all their popular powders. And they did. Under Pyrodex, they had rifle and shotgun, even musket loads. But then they dried up. They just don't publish the data on it anymore. And it's not as prevalent. You know, muzzleloading shotgun is the redheaded stepchild of the muzzleloading field, because you've got the Civil War guys are the biggest because they've got the most participants. Although I would argue today, probably the vast majority of black powder in that kind of thing is being burned in cowboy action in those matches. But the Civil War guys, and they're shooting blanks. And the Civil War guys, they're shooting blanks mostly, unless they're at an actual match where they're shooting clay pigeons or something, volley fire, something like that. And then you've got the people that are shooting the flintlocks and stuff for reenactment. And the very tail end of it is muzzleloading shotgun. It is just not out there. People just don't talk about it. They'll tell you about loading black powder into a modern shotgun shell, but they don't want to talk about muzzleloading shotguns. It was so replaced by the cartridge firearm in the 1870s. It's really a miracle anybody makes a replica. And because of that, from Pyrodex and them's point of view, why even bother with shotguns? It's just such a small niche. There are just not many people shooting. Actually, when I did my thing, I've just done now on Rumble, talking about the muzzleloading shotgun, there just isn't hardly any information out there about muzzleloading shotgun. Do you have any plans for your black powder revolver series? Yes, I will be doing more over on Rumble. I've got stuff planned right now. I'm just finishing up the shotgun. I think I got 2 Saturdays of shotgun, and then I'm going to jump over to my cap and ball revolvers for a while again. Jerry, thank you very much. That's why I'm doing it. I want to do these reviews to give guys ideas about this gear and etc., and to get gear that I can give away at events and stuff like that. You know, and I'm curious too. You know, before I pony up that kind of money, I want to have at least a good working knowledge of what I'm looking at. Like the bike and these power units and things, I'm kind of ignorant of it, and I'm learning. But I really think it can be a game changer for us old Silver Wolves to be able to have mobility again with these bikes and these power units, being able to take it out there and run for the Silver Wolves that need CPAPs and stuff like that. That's my mindset where I'm coming from. Santiago Gomez, I finally shot my 44. I have several cap jams. I'm wondering, lube so stiff because the cold weather made it big mess. Your thoughts, please. That is one of the things. Okay, one, the nipples are probably, if it's a current made gun, the hole inside the nipple is too big and it's laying way too much pressure to blow back, and it just disintegrates the caps into giblets, which gets wedged all in the action. It's supposed to bust the cap, not blow it like a grenade. And in fact, the third model Dragoon, the Dragoon I got right now I'm gonna have to change the nipples on it, because with a 30 grain load, it's just pulverizing the cap into giblets. The 49 pocket model I have, pocket Navy in 36. With just a 10 grain load, it would blow the cap all the way underneath the curve of the hammer, all the way down into the action where the trigger is. Just blow it, and blow the cats would just come off. The pressure was way too much coming through. Change out nipples. That'll solve a lot of that. And then on the hammer itself, go back and look at my videos talking about cap jams. I'll show you how to dehorn the hammer. And let's see, what was the third thing you asked? Roll back up there. I use my lube now because it's good. It stays soft down in the 20s and 30s. That's one of the reasons I got away from boar butter, was because that stuff turned into a rock at 40 degrees. You couldn't squeeze it out of a tube for nothing, and it just didn't work as lubrication. I'd have to heat it up in order to use it. So that's the reason I developed my lube, so it would be soft and pliable, even down to cold. I had a guy in Canada who'd bought some. He said it was good down to 20 below, that he left it on the dashboard of his truck and came out and said it was 20 below, and I picked it up and unscrewed it, and it was still soft and pliable. So that's what I use and why I use it, because I want to keep the lube soft, keep the fouling down. If it hardens, it's not going to do its job. Oh, Gray Wolf, cool. Hopefully brings out that 31 caliber mold soon. Okay, let me catch back up. Andy Knight, Blackie, I have a Spiller and Burr like yours with a canted barrel, identical to yours. Spiller and Burr. I intend to correct it. I was thought about using a Superzilla to soak the barrel threads and remove. Your thoughts? That can work. Automatic transmission fluid does a real good job too. It will wick its way, and it's a really good penetrating oil. But they put some sort of sealer on those threads before they screw them into the frames, and that's what I'd suggest is put some sort of good penetrator in there, soak it. I let it soak a week, and then make me something that fits that frame perfectly. You know, we used to take wooden mallets and just carve it down, like, and just wedge it in there, just barely wedge it, so 100%, you know, to unscrew anything like that and try to unscrew it. But good luck with it. I hope it works well for you. Wicked Viking, Blackie, how's the bearskin hoodie? I enjoyed it. I tested it for a couple of days, and I loaded it up and I sent it off to Trinity. This was to be hers, like I said in the video. She loves it. It's got all the tactical pockets all over it. She's a gearhead, and so she sent me some pictures of her wearing it. So, but I will give them. It was unusually warm for its thickness, because like I showed you, I was wearing a bigger jacket. And when I changed over to that, I expected to be a little bit cool, but I wasn't. So I think it'd be, especially you guys up in cold country, snow country, it might be a worthwhile investment for you. I really liked it. Andre Thorne. Okay. Andre, Thorne, Thorne. I'm listening to you from Quebec. I speak French, but I like your videos. Thank you. Thank you very much. Shane, hello. Peace, Tide. There are a few people who have food when SFHT, when the poo-poo hits the fan, but more people who will loot. Who will win? That's one of those things. If you set up for yourself and put up the food and they can get to you, they're going to find a way to get to you and take what you got. Who's going to win? The one that knows how to scavenge and get his own food, that knows how to eat things that they don't. They're looking for cans. They're looking for instant meals. They have no training in understanding how to live off the land or in how to hunt. Who's going to win? The one that knows how to walk out in the woods and find food on their own, so they don't have to stockpile and carry it. They're the one that's going to win. Because those that are looting and everything, when there's nothing left to loot, they starve or turn to cannibalism. That's just, history has showed that over and over again. When people are starving, they will turn to cannibalism. And till then, if you can just drift off into the woods, out of sight, out of mind, and do your bit, yeah, and stay away. That's the thing to do. Who's going to win? The one that can walk away and ain't dependent on that. Eric, Catherine, is that where bust a cap? Yes, percussion caps. I'll bust a cap on him. Jeff Conley, Blackie, did I hear you correctly? Your April gathering will be a week long. The Silver Wolves class will begin on Friday, April 4th, and it will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It will end on the 7th, April the 5th, 6th, 7th. Okay. It officially ends Sunday night at 6 p.m. on the 7th. The very next morning, which will be April the 8th, will begin my gathering. And that will run from Monday morning, April the 8th, until Sunday, April the 14th. So that's 7 days, basically Monday through that Sunday. And so I'm going to be out there from Thursday until Sunday, the Thursday till Sunday week. I'm going to be out there a while. But yeah, that's the game plan. Stacy, good evening to West Virginia. Wicked Viking, who wins the best shot? Very true a lot of times. Yeah, Gray Wolf, those canteen pouches are very handy to turn into all kinds of carry bags. Wicked Viking, exactly. Mobility is the key. Patton said stationary fortifications are merely targets. The idea is to look like you have nothing of value. And the one that are able to just drift off and not appear to have anything, they're the ones that's going to ride it out, because those that are coming out of the cities, those that are coming out of whatever, they don't know. They got no skills, no abilities. And so they're going to try to just break into stores, break into houses. They're hungry. They're looking for food. But I bet they're going to be awful scared to wander around them woods at night, because there's things out there that'll bite you. And yeah, it'll be a different way of life. I studied a lot about frontier life. Imagine that today, guys. Imagine you're going to take your wife and 2 kids, and you're going to go off 100 miles from the nearest civilization into some valley in the middle of nowhere, or over some mountain pass or something, wherever. And you're going to build you a cabin. You're going to be there. You're the only people that you know about. And you know that there are Indian tribes around there that will kill you on sight. And you're going to clear land, plant a farm. Kind of hard to hide that. One guy and a gun, a man and wife and a gun, 2 guns against 40 warriors. Man, that was courage. Well, that's the reason Boone led groups for protection into those territories, and would set up. He built Boonesboro and things like that. Those pioneers that went into those hostile areas and had to colonize and set up, they were facing a true uphill battle where you could never let your guard down for nothing. If you notice, there's a lot of houses that were built around the Kentucky area and stuff when people were moving into Kentucky, and you got the house, the bottom story, and it goes up, and then it flares out like that and goes to a second story square. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a peephole where you can look through a hole in the floor, or not hole, and see the door and around the door. Because what was one of the favorite things Indians would do? They know you're going to get up at dawn and go feed the cow. So they just go hide by your door. They'd sneak up during the night. And the bottom floor doesn't have any windows. See, it's just a door. And it's well fortified. And they know that. And so they'd sneak up and get up against the door with a tomahawk, and they'd wait. And they're betting you're going to swing that door open holding a lantern. One hand's got the door, one hand's got the lantern. They're going to tomahawk you and come in. Well, there's a peephole. So you could look down there and see if there was somebody waiting at the door. You know, they came up with a lot of ways in them days. They lived in a very combat rich environment. So read about some of them and you give you a good idea of the things that you may face in the future. Washburn Billy, good evening. Stacy Spark, oh yeah, in West Virginia, it's up or downhill. You got plenty of places to hide. Justin, Blackie, do you think game will get exhausted in that scenario? Initially, yes, especially the big stuff. Nobody is going to have cows because they can catch a cow, pigs, chickens, all like that. They're going to get that. Now, the wild game that retreats, but just on a time limit, you know, from complete breakdown X plus, I'll say 60 days, 2 months. And when they ain't getting a lot of food, they don't move far. You're going to have those just keep following roads, looking for the over the horizon to be somebody else. But there's other people coming that way too. And you're going to have those that by right of might and brute force, they're going to take whatever they want, but their resources is going to diminish because there's not going to be cars going up and down the road. There isn't going to be trucks full of food. There ain't going to be whatever. So you're going to quickly deplete and you got to move. And you're going to become hunter-gatherers. And there are going to be those that ride a horse until they got to eat the horse. Or somebody shoots the horse out from under you so they can eat the horse. You know, a bicycle will become your best friend. And game will start thinning down. But these massive exodus people out of these big cities that have no wood skill whatsoever, they've never cleaned anything. They've never killed anything up close. You know. Yeah, they're going to get the barn animals. They're going to get the livestock. They'll get all that. Hunting a deer, that's for us rednecks. And I figure we'll drift back into the thick stuff where they're going to be scared to go. And once they start dying out, and they will, because they're going to get hungry and they ain't nothing to eat. They don't know how to plant. They don't have to harvest. They can be sitting in a field of wood sorrel and they don't know they can eat it. And so for that I'd say first 60 days, it's going to be really, really bad. And then it'll be bad, not as bad, but bad for the first 6 months. And after 6 months, there's going to be enough people gone that it's going to be few and far between. And then people that drifted back into the back can start coming back out a little bit now because ain't none of them left out there to worry about. They done starved. Because they think they just yell louder and kill more people, they'll find food. If there ain't no food, there ain't no food. Gray Wolf, define best. Traditional best weather resources, water will also be the most contested. Yeah, places where stuff like that's readily available, that's going to be it. Good evening, Pam. Yeah. Jeff Hansen, good evening. Yeah, Pam had to go through a week of that. But I tell people, they say, well, it can't happen. Katrina turned a major city, New Orleans, into a third world country in 18 hours, where people were being raped and killed on the street just for whatever. And those that took refuge in the big old huge Astrodome were being attacked by thugs going around looking for food, looking for money, looking for whatever. Yeah, the people in the city is going to have to get out, but they don't have the skills. So it's going to be bad. It'll be a chapter in the book for sure. Yes, Jerry Donald, they will. They will eventually turn to cannibalism. We're not special. We're just humans. And in the long history of humanity, That has reared its head many times when the only food source is those guys over there. They're weaker than us. They're going to eat. They're going to have to find something to eat. And they've ate all the dogs, all the cows, all the pets, all the things they can catch. They've already took a net and put it across and drug it across a lake and got every fish they get out of it. There's nothing left. All that's left is us. We'll get around to that eventually. That's just part of history. Here's a little tidbit for you. When you read the book Treasure Island, and there was Long John Silver, remember? Long was a title that got hung onto a pirate who had been a cannibal because he had eaten long pork. Long pork was the nickname for cannibalism because those that had to indulge in it because of shipwreck or whatever, it claimed that when you eat a human, it tastes like pork. So they called it long pork. And so they called him Long John Silver because he'd been a cannibal as part of a shipwreck. Those little things you find out when you dig deep. Wicked Viking, yes, if you plan to survive, you should have multiple caches of food, ammo, consumables, and as many options spread out as you can. Exactly. And I'm going to discuss some of that on the Being Sneaky that will be coming up on Rumble. I can talk more about such things there, about putting caches in and stuff like that. Good places to put caches that you can find after everything goes haywire. So. Briar Smoke, yes, that 1911 that I did the video on. Rugged, reliable gun. It's easy to reload for. You can take a mold and make bullets as long as you got primer, brass, and powder, and a source of lead, which you can pony up here or there. You've got a good, rugged, reliable gun that can work in the mud and the dirt and with little maintenance. I don't want a beauty queen. I want something that can handle the rough. I want a mule that no matter how bad it gets, it'll go when I say go. So that's the reason I do that. Alexander, greetings from West Palm Beach, Florida. Any thoughts on easy ways to purify water after a hurricane if you don't have access to water purification tablets? You can, if you're talking about brackish, that's going to be a problem because getting the salt back out. You can boil it with a still type system to get the evaporative water out of it and get water. You can also take and simply boil water if it's not brackish to sterilize it and kill anything in it. Paul, good evening. But beyond that, that's your choices. Now, clear bleach that has no perfume in it and nothing else. A couple of drops of clear bleach will do the job and will neutralize it. It's going to taste like pool water, but it'll be safe to drink. So there's several options you can do, but boiling is your best bet if we're getting rid of biologicals. Some sort of filter system like sand or whatever to filter it through to take out all the particulate matter. But if it's brackish water, you're talking about being on hurricanes down there in Florida. If you're near the ocean, that's going to be tough. You're going to have to just educate yourself in knowing the difference and how to find groundwater. Down there in lower Florida, usually you ain't got to go far and you just dig down a couple of feet and you're going to hit the water table because Florida is basically a giant sandbar from Tampa down. And so it's not hard to find the fresh water that's in the ground. But if you're anywhere near the ocean, any kind of flowing water, you got the risk of it pushing a big tidal surge in and turning a freshwater lake brackish until it has time to filter it back out. So. Good idea, Carlos. Yeah, be prepared down there. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a prediction here. And this is just because I'm staying old. Usually, when we have one of these cold, wet winters, which is what we're having now of this, the tropical jet stream moves up and you get all that stuff coming across the Pacific, slamming into California and flooding them. And you have all the storms coming in, going across Texas in the south and getting all this, and that turns into all the snow up north and everything else. Usually that year is going to be a heavy hurricane year, because when that kind of sets back down, that water's still very warm, and you get, because right now, see, where we normally have this current coming, well, excuse me, from your point of view, it would be this current, you know, where it's flowing off of Africa, coming to America and doing the things. That jet stream's moved up, and so it's pushed it to the too warm of water, so to speak. But usually what happens is this year, after it all settles down and that jet stream drops back down and that pulse comes off of Africa, you get a lot of hurricanes, one right after the other. It's like the earth kind of cleans itself every couple of years. And so I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to have a lot of hurricanes this year. We shall see. Frog and Waves, thank you very much. Frog in the Waves, okay. Lewis, good evening. Oh, cool. You got your M65. Awesome. One of the best jackets there is. You know, when I was in school, I had a girl I was kind of sweet on that she and I started dating, and she liked the guys to be, you know, kind of dressy. And she didn't like my M65 field jacket. She said, "You're not going to wear that damn green thing again, are you? We're going out. Put on something nicer," you know. And so I wore my green thing everywhere. So. Peace, exactly. If you're going to die anyway, why not try to survive? Yeah, piss them off, survive. You know, nothing wrong with getting a good head start, is there? So there's been a few times that I've been in situations I thought, I might not walk out of this. Okay, let's see how far I can go. You know, don't give up and sit down. You're not going to get anything. Just keep going as far as you can. Keep trying. Really tick them off and survive. Yeah, Eric, that's a really good point. That's part of a stealth garden. Is if you bury potatoes, if you grow potatoes in an area on your land that's not so obvious, and you go out there and plant them, and etc., and you cover them over like you're supposed to, and you just go out and water them every whatever, and you don't bring attention to it, you know, you can grow a lot of potatoes and nobody will even know to dig for them. I've talked to several people that's sneaky little ways of doing stealth food, out of sight, out of mind, that we're going to talk about. Randy, any thoughts on a cut down trade musket to a blanket gun? Great for short range, sucks at everything else. A little bitty old short 36-inch. It's a great sawed-off shotgun for point blank. Disadvantage, trying to hunt with it. Now, if you're trying to be anti-snake or something that's going to be 0 to 10, 15 yards, yeah, you're okay. Any further range, you're just wasting shot. It's just going to spread out too much. So it's super handy to have, especially for night defense, up close point pull. But as far as a hunting gun, the best shotgun to me, not in a muzzleloader, but whatever, is like the Mossberg 500 that has 2 barrels. I want a short tactical 18-inch barrel, and I want a full-length barrel with chokes that I can screw in. Because I can drop in a barrel and have a tactical gun that I can use for up close and nasty. And I can drop in a long barrel for having an actual hunting gun. Easy, interchangeable, and all I got to tote is a barrel, which don't weigh hardly nothing. So, Carlos, are you selling your M65? Oh, heck no. Nope. I'm probably going to be buried in that thing. Who knows? Yeah, pray for the best and hope, but be prepared for the worst. Yeah, Miss Pam, and he's right. Save it for the emergency. We'll make it this way. Yeah, Yeah, Mr. Walker is a fine young man. I'm very proud of him. Gordon, I have not yet. I have done something like that in the far past, but I have not started making percussion caps. Man, they're so hard to come by right now. It's, when they start making them in May and they're going to hit in June, July, and August, I grab like 1,000. I've got all the little distributors on my thing, and every day I go through until I get about 1,000 caps. And that's what I'd usually carry for the year. I want 1,000 caps. But I have not had to do that, but it's quickly approaching on the horizon. I'm probably going to have to get into that. Nathan, yeah, the small gardens, there was a thing they found in archaeology in England. They were doing a lot of things looking at the Stone Age type people there, and it didn't make sense what they were seeing. They thought they worshiped nature because you would have the village was like a big donut, and in the middle was about like a 2 to 3 acre unkept hunk of grass, trees, and stuff. And they thought, well, they worship nature. It finally was in the 20th century that somebody like me looked at it and said, wait a minute, what are you finding? Well, it's nothing but trees and wild plants and everything else. And they didn't understand that those were actually edible. Everything in that 2 acres in the middle of that village was medicinal or food. But because the archaeologists didn't know that wood sorrel or greenbrier was anything to eat, or cattail, they didn't realize what they were doing. They transplanted native plants to a particular plot. And for people living out in off grid and they're worried about it, etc., that's an excellent thing to do, is to gather wild plants and bring them and don't put them in rows. Just put them in here. And this, what to anybody else looking at it, it's an overgrown hunk of grass in here. Well, they don't realize that every plant in there is edible. And you're creating your own garden that you don't have to feed or water. Nature will take care of it. All you got to do is transplant the plants in here and give them what they need to grow. And you're growing wood sorrel, you're growing greenbrier, you're growing dandelion, you're growing Latuca virosa, you're growing medicines. You bring in your trees that's going to produce the nuts and acorns. Bring them around the things. I mean, you can make an entire functioning garden that you can feed a family of 4 off of, then supplement it with wild game, that the average person will not see anything but an overgrown patch of woods. Be a great way to hide, wouldn't it? Dave Goodrich, exactly, and brings a lot of squirrels in too, don't it? Oh yeah, gray wolf. A pond will produce fish. It'll produce crawdads. You can also grow all kind of cattail on there. You can also attract ducks and other waterfowl. Dove and other birds got to come in and get water. There's all kinds of things you can do if you just start thinking about it. And like someone mentioned there, a good bird feeder and a BB gun will provide you with meat. Yes, it will. I used to get you some of them big old wharf rat traps. It's like a rat trap that big. Drill a hole in it, and you walk up to something like a pecan tree, right? Put a deck screw in to anchor it to the tree, and then bait it with black oil sunflower seeds and peanut butter. Skippy will be hanging there. You come up, pull it out, reset it, put him in the freezer. I got 19 squirrels out of my pecan trees in 1 week because pecans were going for a premium and I didn't want them eating up my pecans. So I just went and put like 6 traps over 19 trees. 19 squirrels in a week. Filled up the freezer with squirrel meat. Works really well. Yeah, Randy T, I remember that. Had turnips planted, turnips, collards, things like that. That's one of the okra. I mean, a lot of these city folks don't know what plants look like. They know what corn is, because they see that. But ask them, what's a butterbean plant look like? What's a field pea plant look like? They got no idea. And so you can bring some stuff in and hide, like planting potatoes. Like I said, nobody thinks about potatoes being in that dirt, especially if you make it look like it's something else. Like where I parked the tractor and right in front of us, this big old pile of dirt right there, just like you dump dirt. They don't see this underground. There's things you can do to get through. Piers, if you lost your glasses in the wood, can you survive, or do you need your extra glasses? For me, I'm farsighted. I only need these on so I can read that right now. I don't wear them all the time. I do carry glasses with me, but to see detail up like this, usually for reading. But in most time, I am not wearing them when I'm in camp or whatever. I can see well enough to do what I got to do, but I'm farsighted. I can tell you what's going on at 1,000 yards. I can't tell you what's going on 30 inches in front of my nose, to read small print or something. So I'm not that, but I know people who are, that if you're the type of person that if you ain't got your glasses on, you're stone cold blind, invest in several sets. For several years, I had the titanium frames. You could warp them and you did everything and they didn't break. And that's what I wore for work glasses. And saved me a ton. Yeah, those were double the price for a regular pair of glasses, but those frames were guaranteed for 10 years. So you can wad them up, you bust the glass and let go, and the frames bring right back to shape. So invest to have what you need. Briar Smoke, I'm thinking about putting together a Silver Wolves truck camping setup with a Baker tent, heavy cot, chair, and table. You ever use a canvas style Baker tent? I have. I like a wall tent better because I like the way it sets up easier. Baker tent is very, very popular with a lot of people, and it does a good job. I just prefer a wall tent because it's easier to set up for me. But I have used canvas. We had a canvas Baker tent for 2 seasons when we were doing rendezvousing, and I traded it out for a wall tent. I just prefer it. Personal choice, just that, but they can do very well. Randy T, yeah. Seed them in, put in things ahead of time. I'll give you a little tip. A group of individuals that I was part of back in the 80s, that we were sure we were going to be in World War III. And we made a map of the power lines, the big transmission lines that comes across all the people's land that's going from the nuclear power plant over here to the grid and everything. For 25, 30 miles around where we lived, we knew where all the power lines went. And that gave us routes of travel through cross land that weren't necessarily on a road. We also went along in certain of those places that were crossing big timberland and stuff like that. Now, they're going to come through and bush hog it and stuff like that, but that was a great place to put caches of food and stuff like that by using them big, huge power line poles as a reference. So this one, which got a number on it, by the way, this one's 219, and is not likely to go missing, and this is designed to survive you in a hurricane. But you could get there and then know that from here, compass heading in so many steps, treasure map, and that's where the caches went. And we could hide food on those lines and other supplies and be able to get to them later from any location by simply knowing how to follow those power lines like you would follow a road. See, so we knew the river routes, we knew the railroad routes, we knew the power line routes, and we knew the gas line routes that went So we didn't have to rely on roads. There was other ways to get there. And we didn't hide anything on our land. It was all hidden on these other lands that weren't on a farm or something. This was like big timber company land or whatever that was part of this huge holding or whatever. That there are no trees here for them to cut. That, they got trees, and you got that cleared out straight land. And this land has been leased for 100 years by the power company. So as long as we cash on this land, it'll be here, no matter what. And they're not going to take up them power lines anytime soon. So we could navigate to caches and stuff like that. But when I do the being sneaky, we're going to talk about that stuff. 2020, Blackie just received my penumbra. One end of it fits perfectly around the cap back of my truck. Great thing to do. I love mine. In fact, I will be doing a overnight camp on one pretty soon again, because I love mine. Quick and easy setup. I run a ridge line up, put it up off the ground, pull out the sides and stake, 4 sticks to hold it out, and I put a stick on the inside driven in the ground to kind of hold it like a third tie out on the middle. And it's a nice wall tent, or you can put one side down and put the other side up. It's like a baker like that. Take the one in and go over the end of the truck and just have a big tube going to the back of my truck. Man, they're great. For 160 something bucks, you can't beat it. Now, the disadvantage, this thing does not breathe. It's designed to hold heat. Got a flame retardancy stuff to it. But what that means is it does have a problem with condensation. And so you will have to worry about water running down the inside of the walls during the night from you breathing. So just don't get up against the wall and you're fine. Gordon, yes, Taylor & Company's guns are very good. They're usually either Pieta or they're Uberti. And they're usually very good. I've got a couple of theirs. Ryan Walker, what do you think the Chinese spy balloon was? A mistake. Something that obvious. They said it was originally supposed to go into Hawaii area, and then they got an unexpected wind current that carried it all the way up, and then it came in. So I figured that's probably what it was. It was probably a mistake, because how dumb would it be? I mean, they can track it. They can tell where it's going. They'll know everything it's saying, and then turn around and read back onto their end to get espionage through it. So it was a stupid thing for them to do, to let that get over us. It really was. Charles Martin, I've been slowly and quietly gathering food and all the stuff I would need. That's the thing to do. Don't get in a hurry. Just gather what you need. Me and Bear started talking about in Bear's Old Ways well over a year ago. You need a plan. You need some stuff stuck back, because we don't know what's coming, but we do know that it's probably going to be something stinky for a while. No matter which side wins the spectrum, the other side's going to be pissed. And it's just probably a good idea, because when they start talking about trucks ain't bringing food, now down here in the South, we're all used to being poor. We're all used to being hungry. We're all used to have to go catch dinner tonight, But then people in the cities, when you suddenly turn off the food, they get upset in a hurry. And they require a lot of food. I remember seeing it was in 2015, the government did a analysis of if you entered into a war right now and somebody blew up the 11 bridges, and there's only 11 bridges to get into New York City. If you blew up all 11 bridges, how much food is inside New York City itself? Not all the suburbs, but the city itself. How long a food supply did it have? And they said 3 hours. There has to be that many trucks and stuff bringing in that much food for all them people. It's consumed so fast. 3 hours. Definitely within a day, there'd be nothing left, that it'd be all consumed, because they have to have that many trucks rolling in to resupply and restock constantly. 24 hours. The city runs 24 hours a day. You got to be open and restocking. They'll clear the shelves off in a matter of an hour or so. And so, yeah, you detonate 11 bridges, and New York City's got to be abandoned. You tell 11 or 12, 14 million people, you got to go somewhere else. Ooh, glad I don't live anywhere up in that neck of the woods. Gray wolf, yes, and Chiapa, which used to be another name. They've been around since the 80s, but there was another name for them. They only changed to Chiapa 5-8 years ago, something like that. Oh, Stacy, yeah, that Devil Ants in 45. Very nice. I love 44, 40, and 45 Colt. Love them. So versatile. Yep, 300 grain cast over black will do a good job. Wicked Viking. I have heard of such a thing, but I don't know of anybody selling one right now. Shane Lawson, I've heard it's 9 miles away from Anarchy. It's not far away. No one would have believed that hurricane hitting New Orleans would, yes, doing damage. I'm not saying that, but the people would turn that quick into that kind of, dog eat dog, where Southerners are known for helping each other. You figure like 2-3 weeks of it, yeah, they did it. No, it was, the storm ain't even over and looting had already started. So yeah. Carlos, Blackie, any thoughts on bunkers? They can be really good to keep you out of harm's way for storms and stuff, but the whole idea of a bunker is nobody must know it's there, and realize that if you store your stuff down there and everything else, and stuff goes sideways, you've got to be able to hide down there and nobody know you're there. They're going to break into your house. They're going to loot the whole house. They may burn the house. And so you got to just stay like a turtle and stay buttoned up and not come up for air. So when you're considering doing a bunker, that's what you got to consider, because once they know you're there, they're going to find a way. They got nothing better to do than start digging, Jerry, Blackie, survival camping gear adds up quick. Do you have any videos on organizing your stuff? Ooh, you made so many, it's hard to search. Yeah, I got over 1,400 videos. I think I have done that, and I promised to do a video, what's behind this screen, of all my tubs and stuff, how I divide my gear out to make it easy to grab and index. I've talked about it, but I've never done one in here. So I will try in the coming weeks to do a video on how to organize your gear, set it up, for what you're going to be doing. In fact, I'll go ahead and make a note right now on that, so I don't forget again, because I am old and late in the day and the hair is gray. Okay. Gear separation organization. Okay, I got it marked down. That mine is set up so that when I come in here, up here on the top are the packs. Below that are individual tubs that are covered by like fire gear, sewing gear, whatever, I can mix and match. So I can take the empty pack down, open it up, and start grabbing what I need and throw into an organized pack quickly for what I need. In case of a bug out, in probably less than 10 minutes, I can organize everything we need out of that into what we need for this given season, this given situation, etc. Blankets, put it together and be able to walk out the door. And so we'll talk about that. Hey, Pink. Good evening, brother. Hope you're doing well. The mighty Pink's in the house. Yeah, you cannot store enough. Knowledge is the only thing that's going to matter in the extreme long term. Knowledge and skill, because any resources are going to run dry. You've got to be able to move. And so who's going to win? The person that can, what was it that Kephart said? He who can travel in any weather, any climes, and make himself comfortable is the freest man in the world. You've got to be able to provide for you and your family. It's going to be tough, absolutely. But it'll be much tougher on everybody that ain't got no skill. And so having the skills, having the ability to drift off. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, when the world hits the thinky, don't come to Blackie's, because Blackie won't be here. You know, love y'all to death. Nah, Blackie's gone. And talking with the wife and etc. If that kind of problems arose, it's a Category 5 hurricane. We've got a place we're going, well above the zone. If it's civil unrest, we've got plans for that. You know, you've just got to sit down and be honest. And you know, there are things. Yes, we need to hunker down and ride it out here. And then there's no, it ain't worth it. Let's go. And so that's the process you got to work through. Having food, supplies, cash, other locations, places you can go to, friends that are set up for you to come in to become part of them and support each other, you know, those type things. And then you don't talk about them either, so you don't have 200 people coming to show up. Charles Martin, I just watched your U.S. Army backpack video again because I recently got an original one. Good. Hope you found something that was interesting to you. Yep, Pink, we're doing okay. Carlos, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to really work hard to find me. You know. In fact, I'll tell you all this. Back when, it was 20 years ago, Grouch and all of us were at a big family gathering, mostly his family. And someone had brought up the world go to poo poo and etc. And they were talking to Grouch. And he asked Grouch, he said, well, so you and Blackie are going to be pairing up for this, right? And he said, no, Blackie's going to do his thing and I'm going to do my thing. And he said, well, if Blackie shows up, you're going to tell him to go away? And Grouch got quiet and he looked at me and I looked at him. And he said, brother, I love you. But if it's gone to that and it's me and mine and you show up, I got to put a bullet in you. Yeah, because you know if I show up, I'm not there to be friends. You know, it's mutual respect that he's got his family to take care of and I've got mine. And if I show up, that ain't what I'm here for. And if he shows up, that ain't what he's here for. You know, it's that bad and he's got family to feed and grandbabies to keep alive. Love you to death, brother, but you got good stuff. And so we had a good laugh over that, you know. Us and them, yes, sir. We are brothers, but when that goes, love you, brother. Hope you make it. That's just the way it's got to be. Now, boy, we got on to a deep, dark topic tonight, didn't we? Dark Meta, hello. Shane, yeah. Good idea. Andrew Kelso, hello there. Yep, smart move, Charles. Bong, James Bong, thank you very much. John Donnell, any end of the world survival movies you like? Oh boy. Oh, I haven't haven't watched quite a few of them in a long time, but oh yeah, there was Red Dawn. Red Dawn was based on something that was actually a Soviet doctrine, that how they were going to take over Central and South America. Then they would eventually get Mexico. Once they got Mexico, they'd put 60 divisions sitting there on the Texas border, and then they'd attack the Mississippi and the passes through the Rocky Mountains, and they'd roll up and take the Great Plains, and then they'd go to the coast, and that's how they intended to take the United States. That was created by Gorbachev in the 1960s and was called the Yucatan Doctrine. And they made a movie about it, them doing it. So most movies are good entertainment, but a lot of times they don't know what they're talking about too. So, Andrew, have you hunted deer with a 36 Colt revolver? I have not. I've hunted deer with a 44. I've hunted a lot of small game. Now, could a 36 up close with a properly placed? Yes. I've shot big hog. I've shot several 100-pound hog with a 36 and dropped them where they were standing. So it's shot placement, really. As long as they're close and you can put the bullet where you're looking, yeah. John Bentley, favorite last dinner before the world goes poo? Fried ham steak with mashed potatoes and gravy. Field peas and butter beans mixed together. Cornbread that's been baked with a little extra sugar and a little bit of bacon grease. Pan-made brown gravy from the drippings of both the ham and a little bit of beef stock. Sweet tea, and a piece of 7-layer lane cake, chocolate lane cake. Be a great last meal before the world went to poop. Carlos, Blackie, what's your best survival book? Ooh. If you're wanting sheer knowledge, Tarwell has got a book, big old thick thing, and it's where he took 30 or 40 other books and combined them into one. And it's a good working knowledge of a lot of topics from all over the world type environment, where we're talking about desert, open ocean, island, forest, tundra, hunting, fishing, weather prediction, navigation by the stars, first aid. Name of the author's name is Tarwell. You look it up, but that's would be, if I was going to give only one book to you, that book would be a good working knowledge in a lot of the world go poo. Pawpaw, everyone needs to ask themselves that very question. When it gets to the point, are you willing to take what you need from whoever, or or do what it takes to protect your stuff? Yeah. When it becomes us versus them, whatever that is, and I'm not talking about in modern identity politics. I'm talking about a little more personal in base, where it's me and my family are going to die if we don't do something. My grandfather told me he raised 8 kids during the Great Depression. And he was not a rich man. He was a very poor man, but he did the best he could. And he said, be as honest as you can, be as kind as you can. But before you hear your children cry from hunger, rob the bastards blind. And I understood. You got 8 mouths to feed and everybody's looking at you. You're going to do what you got to do to feed the family. Be as friendly and kind as you can be, but at the same time, I'm not going to hear my children cry from hunger. Nope. Anyway. Yeah. A TV dinner. Yeah, I remember when they were in aluminum pans and there was no microwave. You had to put them into a oven for 45 minutes to heat them up. My grandmother, when the microwave ovens first started showing up in the 70s, she would not know because she'd seen that movie in the 50s and knew that people eating that stuff, it was radioactive and you're going to grow a third eye and, you know, wings or something. And so therefore she wouldn't eat anything that'd been microwaved. That's radiated, and I'm not eating radiated food. But, oh yeah, here's one to date you. Color TV. All TVs are color today. But we remember when there were black and white TVs and color TVs. You know, we remember when a radio was this big or some big unit this big, you know, not this little bitty thing that you put on a watch or whatever. It was a radio. Turn on it, and the tubes would have to heat up in it before it'd start. And then you had to turn the dial and it squawked like crazy. I remember them days. Yeah, Jerry, when TV all went off there at midnight and they played the national anthem, it was louder than the regular volume, so it'd wake you up because you'd be sitting there asleep and you hear dun 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 dun. Time to go to bed. Yeah, I remember them days. Oh yeah, the green scan. Yeah, and the old test pattern with the Indian in the middle of it. Yeah. Remember us in school? We were taught to duck and cover. And so when they'd blow that, everybody had to dive under the desks. You know, like a desk was going to stop a nuclear blast. But it was years after that. I was all the way up into probably 18, 19-year-old, and you'd hear, and I'd want to hit the deck because we've been trained to do it, you know. Oh, yeah, Curtis Mathis console TV. We had one of them dinosaurs, yeah. Will Ames, good evening. Christopher, the One Win air mattress. I've seen it on your channel and purchased One Win website. I don't have a One Win air mattress. What you saw me laying on that air mattress, I was doing the top quilt, which was the down top quilt. One Wind, I don't believe, does the air mattress, but it's the quilt that went over me. That's what I was testing. They keep bringing out new products. I haven't gone and checked in a while. They may end up doing an air mattress. Yeah, Soylent Green. Yeah, it's people. Remember that movie? Yeah, Dark Matter, I hear you. Marcus, good evening. Yeah, Dark Matter. I like MREs. I mean, yeah, it would get monotonous if that's all you had, but man, that they can be good eating compared to some other stuff I've had to encounter. So, okay, suddenly it jumped on women. Charles, do you have any merino wool clothes for winter camping? I do not, but they're very good. I have actual European manufactured military wool pants, came out of Germany, and I have U.S. Army 1950s issue wool pants that were wool uniform pants that I'll wear sometimes in the winter that do really good. But that merino wool is very good stuff. Doesn't itch, and it holds heat very well. Yeah, Jerry Donnelly. Donnelly, excuse me. To Serve Man, it's a cookbook. Yep, Twilight Zone. I remember that. Andrew, what's the best bushcraft knife in the market? Goes by your price. If you're talking about money and an object, a WC knife, any of them. William Collins knife. It's you can't do wrong with it. If you're talking about on a budget knife, something like that, the Condors make a really good budget knife. The Condor Bushlaw, about $40-50, does a good job, and is not going to break the bank. So, yeah, 2020, it is amazing, you know. But then again, remember our music from the 60s? The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls. It's amazing how things come to pass after a half century. Ted Prepper, Blackie, how many liters do you think these sustainment bags are? I do not know right off the top of my head. I'm not sure. We calculated it out by size of bags, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me right now because it's like 2-3 months ago we started doing this seriously, and I don't want to misquote. But we calculated out how much cubic inches you had in the Nighthawk and how much these cubic inches, 2 of these would be to be greater than cubic inches of an Alice pack. And so 2 of these and that is greater than an Alice pack in sheer volume size. But it's like this by that, and you, like I said, you can roll it up and down. I showed in that video. You can take one of those Swiss cook sets and set it right in it. That's probably about the biggest, most bulky stove I'm gonna carry in that. So, Andrew, Condor, Condor knife. It's Condor. Yeah, Condor Bushlaw is the name of that model. Condor Bushlaw. Yep. Well, John Bentley, what kind of sustainment are we talking about? 10 liters of rice, 10 liters of bourbon. You know, what's your preference? You know, is the thing. Sustainment, you know, you give me 10 pounds of rice and the ability to hunt, and I'm good for a month. Will I like it? No, but I can do it. I've eaten fish and rice. I've eaten squirrel and rice. I've eaten deer and rice. I've made rice pudding, you know. Odin Wolf knives. Okay. John Bentley, you can only take 2 CDs with you. Oh, you're talking about music or what? Carlos, Blackbird is the best knife. In my opinion, it sure is. The W.C. Collins Blackbird knife is the best knife. In my life, that not just that I had some say in it, it's the design and how to use it. And when people sit down next to me and I hand them the knife and we start whittling on a stick trying to make something or whatever, it has a little learning curve. But once they get in the groove with it, it's just, how did I ever live without this? So. Yeah, dark meta. In fact, the word for rice and the word for eat's the same word in Mandarin. I've been told. I don't speak Mandarin, but I've been told that. He who wins writes the history books. Oh, yeah, about something like that. Music. Oh, boy. Man, I got such taste. I'd drive you nuts. It'll be rock and roll. Then there'll be some country thrown in. Then there'll be some folk thrown in. Then there'll be some pure harmony stuff thrown in. Oh, then there'd be some classical music. Then there'd be some piano, some jazz. Man, I'm all over the place. If I like it, I like it, you know. And back in the days when we used to have those CD turners where you put like 5 CDs in, it would randomly select until it had played every song on every CD, but it would do CD A, do a song, and go to CD B and do a song, and it'd go around till it played all of them. And people would come over and like, where did that come from? Because it'd be, you know, Metallica followed up by Ladysmith Black Mombasa, South African harmony group that sung in Swahili. You couldn't understand the words, but man, you should have heard the harmony of it. It just was awesome. But yeah, and of course, you know, AC/DC, you know, Van Halen, Fleetwood Mac, Styx, Heart. You know, I was like all y'all. Turn the radio on. We got into the truck, and you don't complain about my driving, and don't complain about my tunes. Rush, yeah. Wolfman Jack on the radio. That's true. Oh yeah, Dark yeah, that was it. Having that thing back there in the trunk. You had to go back there and lift the trunk and change out the CDs. It had that rotisserie or whatever, and you didn't want to go over railroad tracks real hard because it'd make it skip. Yeah, I remember them days. Eagles, oh yeah. Here's a song for you from the Eagles. Get Over It. Oh man, does that ever speak to today? The Eagles, Get Over It. Yeah, that's how their hell freezes over. And plus, I went to a lot of concerts. I got to see Kiss, AC/DC, Metallica, Motley Crue, Joan Jett, Heart, Travis Tritt, Garth Brooks, Confederate Railroad, lots of bands. You know, we were at Mississippi at, I want to say Gulf Shores, but I'm wrong. But you know what I mean? It's that place down there on the coast. And doing a Scottish game, me and Grouch and our group. And we had completed up the Scottish game that day. And we had gone down into the bar and was sitting there having a drink. And these guys came in. And that was a country band called Confederate Railroad. And they saw us sitting there in our kilts and everything. And they walked over, and the lead singer was actually a big history buff. And so we all went to talking history. You know, we talked about Scottish history. We talked about Southern history. We talked about whatever. And after about, I don't know, maybe an hour, you know, the whole band sat down. We just went to talking history. After about an hour, these two, I mean, hot young ladies showed up. Like, supermodel-like. And they kept, you know, trying to nuzzle up and everything and whisper in the ear. And finally, one of them was sitting on the knee on the guy next to the lead singer, and leaned over and whispered in his ear. And he stopped and he looked at her and says, "Honey, we can find somebody to spend the evening with in any town, but we can't find anybody in any town to talk history with. So you can just go on. We're not going upstairs. We're going to sit here and talk history." It made them mad. They got up, they stormed out. They were hot as all get out. But, you know, he laughed. He said, "But I mean, come on, we can't find just anybody to talk history with." So, fun times. Oh, ZZ Top. Man, forget it. You can't forget. I would sit here for an hour naming off favorite bands back in the day. Some you all probably never even heard of. So, I mean, there was a lot of them. Jethro Tull. Oh, yeah. Aqualung, baby. And, Starship, Jefferson Airplane, Aerosmith. Oh. Oh man, I did. You had to have. We had to have. We didn't have internet. We had tunes. You know, our girls were hot, our cars were fast, and our music rocked. You know, Boston, Kansas, Cheap Trick, Guns N' Roses. I got to see Guns N' Roses before they became famous. They were a college band going around playing at colleges. And my blood brother Davey Hobbs and a few friends we were up at Auburn, and they were having one of them big block parties that they had back in them days where they would just come in, the cops would block off a block, you know, with cop cars. And you had to be sober to leave. Nobody was allowed to drive. You had to walk. Okay. And so it was just a huge party with all the places doing it. And Guns N' Roses was one of the bands playing. And I'm sitting here, and 10 feet to my right on the back of the pickup truck that had tailgate down, Slash came out during a break and sitting there and was smoking a cigarette up against the thing and was looking, and these two rednecks were doing something stupid over here. And he looked at him and said, "You Southern people are weird, man." And I laughed. I said, "Yeah, it's a different world down here." He said, you rednecks are a little odd down here. Yep. Oh yeah. Got to see a lot of very interesting bands and had a great time. Oh yeah, Deacon Faith, AC/DC, man. BK, Blackie, do you play any instruments? I am killer on an air drum set, dude. Other than that, no. I never had the patience to sit and learn a musical instrument. I had a really good ear for it. And back in the small school that I was from, high school I was from, in junior high, they had everybody tested in the school in like 7th grade to see who had a good tone ear to try to recruit people to put in the band, you know, to keep the band stuff going. And I tested very, very high. And so the band director kept saying, "Man, you need to be in band." I had no interest. I want to be on the shooting team in high school ROTC. I'm not interested in learning how to play guitar or anything like that, and or play horns or whatever. And just never took the time to learn to do any of that stuff. Molly Hatchet, oh yeah. Dark Meta, yeah. Blackfoot, oh yeah. Molly Hatchet, Marshall Tucker, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Bob Seger. Oh, the older I get, the more Bob Seger. Golden Earring, Cinderella. There was a band that could play with Cinderella. But hey, you know, we enjoyed our time. And I love the fact that, you know, just before us, you had like Chuck Berry and Elvis, of course, and Jerry Lee and all those. And when they stopped playing them on the radio, if you didn't have a record, that was the only way. So we had record shops, you know, in those days. And we thought that if it goes away, you'll never have it. So we all built record collections because we want to hold on to this music. And today you can go on and hear anybody that's ever, if you want to hear 1920s jazz, if it was recorded somewhere, you can find it online now and listen to it. So that's the one really good thing that I like about it, is how we've kept the music is still there. You can still go back. And I do it a lot of nights when I'm just pushed and whatever, and I'm busy. I'll put on the dang thing and I'll punch in a favorite band and see what comes up and play their music. You know, it's better than the radio. I don't have to listen to the modern stuff. About the 90s, when the grunge stuff came in, I kind of faded out. So, Three Dog Night, oh yeah. John Bentley, I'm about to buy my first black powder rifle. What would you recommend? if you're going to buy it pre-made, I would say one of the CVA guns are a decent price gun. Now, wait a minute. They're called Traditions today. They're a decent price gun. And don't really put their money into the barrels, and they're normally a fairly accurate gun. And once you are sure this is what you really want to do and you've shot enough and everything, then go for something more traditional or something more in where you're going. But that's a great starting gun to have. It's perfectly adequate to hunt with, accurate enough, and etc. But at the same time, you're not putting $1,000 in a gun just to find out if you like it or not. Marcus Hibben. Blackie, have you and Mrs. Blackie ever been on a cruise ever? I have not. Miss Hope has. She went on a cruise. She loves the ocean. She loves the beach. She loves all of that. Me, I'm mountains. Give me mountains. I don't care about sand and water that much. I'll go fishing down there. But beyond that, but she loves that type of stuff. So now I've been on a U.S. destroyer in the North Atlantic, and does that count as a cruise? I was on board the USS Kuntz. A guided missile destroyer going out on a military job one time where I was a contractor working for the government. But that's the only big open water I've ever been out on. Can't say that it's a big favorite thing of mine. Lenny Kravitz, oh yeah. Meatloaf, oh man, yeah. Meatloaf didn't sing, he was possessed. You know. Paul Revere and the Raiders, Grand Funk Railroad, yep. Lyman is now called Inner Arms. And you can still get those kits. Just Lyman had them put their name on it. But they're still available. And if you'll look on YouTube for I Love Muzzleloading, that gentleman there does the kits, putting them together and showing other stuff. A really good channel. And so if you're looking to do that, I would recommend that. I had and loved a Lyman Great Plains rifle. And I have thought several times about getting another one and putting it together, because I had a 54 and I hunted and took a lot of deer with it, and it got passed on to somebody else about 35 years ago, and I still know where that gun is. And so that's the one Lyman I'd still like to reclaim, or turn around and build another one, that 54 caliber. I changed out the rear sight and went to Track of the Wolf and got a Hawken rear sight copy. That's a copy from original. It's got a slider on it like a modern 22 or whatever. You slide it up and down for elevation. Long bar, about that long. And that's what I put on it. And I antiqued it a little bit. And I loved that gun. It shot well, made me look good, but I was changing history and going further back, and I couldn't take it. So I let somebody else that was really into it have it. And then I went all the way back into flintlocks and all the way back in the 1750s time period, when I finally kind of backed out of it in 2000. Charles Martin, you do not have to register black powder guns. Check your state. Okay. Some cap and ball revolvers you do now in certain states, Illinois, I think, because you can put drop-in conversion cylinders and turn them into 45s or 38s. But as far as the rifles, no. To my knowledge, you do not have to register them at all. Fog hat, yeah. Yeah, Gray Wolf. I knew Herschel House. Me and him and his brother split a couple of jugs of shine over the years at events. And Running Moon, his ex-wife, great individual. Really, really was. Love sitting and talking, and very giving. You know, tell you anything you want to know. Yeah, Brett Johnson. Black powder guns are considered non-guns, and that's when you can buy them through the mail, even though it's a modern manufacturer. Jeff Conley, yeah, we're the 8 tracks. Oh yeah, Dartmouth. Now, Prince could rock now. He was one of a great songwriter and performer. You put on a show. You know, I never got to see him live, but he was a great writer and he put on a show. That's a fact. Gwar. Oh, you went too deep there, Dark Meta. No, never went into that. A friend of mine was big for Gwar, but yeah. BK, Blackie, how'd you get the nickname Blackie? As I've said before, part of my name, my full name, is Biancalusa. So it's Michael Carlton Biancalusa Thomas. That long. Biancalusa means raven in native. And it actually means black hunting bird, but we call it a raven. And because you got a different word for crow. And my grandfather called me Little Blackbird when I was a baby. And that got shortened from Little Blackbird to Blackie by the time I was 3. And so Blackie, you know, in fact, when I started first grade, I never went to kindergarten. When I started first grade and they were calling names, and she said Michael, and I had no clue. Nobody had ever called me Michael to my knowledge. Yeah, my mother called me Pumpkin. To the day she died, she never called me by my name. It was Pumpkin. My mother, my grandmother, and them all called me Blackie. My sister and my father called me brother. You know, so I never heard the term Michael. And so I was there. Everybody else has left class, and the last one sitting there. And poor Mrs. Arnold said, "It's got to be your name. You're the only one here." I said, "Well, my last name's Thomas, but it's not. It's Blackie." And so my mom finally walked in to get me, you know, and she said, "Is his name Michael?" And she said, "Yeah, but we don't call him that. We call him Blackie." You know, well, and then there were 4 Michael Thomases in that class. And so she said, "Okay, we're going to go. You're Mike, you're Michael, you're Tom, you're Thomas." And so I wasn't going to be called Blackie. I was going to be called Michael. So to me, my nickname was Michael. So that's where I got it from. And so that is my name, actually, Blackie Thomas. Do I remember Pat Benatar? Dude. The first Evening Bear, the very first video ever played on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star. The second video ever played was Pat Benatar, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. I was there. I watched it back when they did music. And there was only like 24 or so videos out from anybody. And what it was is you had dance clubs in the UK that they were doing these videos to show in the club, see? And so when MTV went to do it over here, they had a very limited resource. So they only had like 24 or 30 videos to play, you know, and when they first went live, it was only live for like 4 hours and they shut down. They played all the way through the entire playlist and they shut down for the night. And then more people went to making videos, and they finally went 24 hours after about a week, where enough people had sent in videos they could actually do 24 hours. But Pat Benatar was the second video ever played on MTV. I was there. Nathan, thank you. Cooter Bill, yep, I can see that with you. Marcus, your last name is one of my middle names. Cool. Thomas I'm Irish and Scottish, actually Scottish. And the family is Mac Thomas, which goes all the way back to the 1200s. And he was the patriarch of it, was the 3rd illegitimate son of Clan Macintosh's head, the head guy. And so he couldn't be called a Macintosh. And so that Earl of whatever's first name was Thomas. So they called him, actually, they didn't pronounce it that way. Okay. The Scottish way of saying it was Comus, We would spell it C-O-M-A-S, comus. So McComas was the way they said it. But whenever they, in the 1300s, when they came to do the census, and you had to have a last name. Prior to that, not everybody had a last name. You were rich or something, yeah. But the poor people, no, you're John, son of Bill or something. You didn't need a last name. You didn't own anything. But when they did the census, they said you had to have a last name. So people used what they did. So you became masons and wheelwrights and bakers and sanders. That's where that name came from. I'm a baker, so I'm John Baker. You know, that's what they got. Well, they chose for him, son of Thomas, you know, which was English side, but they said Comus. And so it was Mac Thomas was a name, but Tom, Thompson, Thomases, the Thomases, double S. There's like 11, and Combe, McComb. Those are all the same family. It's just over the time they drifted off. The McThomas family invented Black Angus cattle in the 1500s. They took French cattle and Scottish cattle and crossbred them and made Black Angus. And my family got here officially in 1736 into what's now called Darren, Georgia, near Macon. There were some of the families that were brought over from Scotland to found the colony of Georgia. And they were indentured slaves. They were there for 7 years because they didn't want to come. They were sold into slavery to be sent over here. And then once their indenturement was done, they left and went into the Indian Nation, which was the Creek Nation, which is today Alabama. That's how I got here. More history than you ever wanted to know about the Thomas family. But people say, well, my whatever name was Thomas, then we're related, you know, because we got here in the 1700s. I bet you we're related. It'll kill. Blackie, what is the max load recommendation for a Belgium 12 gauge black powder double barrel and working order? Ooh. I don't know what the maximum be, and the question is it Damascus barrels or not? And so what I would say is this. It being 12 gauge for a small game load, I would think about 60 grains or so. Go up or down a little bit till you find the sweet spot. I would say probably about 90 grains would be a max load up there, because that would probably be about 2.5 to 3 grams. Because 30 grains, you get 27 point whatever. So I just say 3 grams is 90 grains. So somewhere 90 or less would probably be the load, maximum load. Beyond that, you know, I wouldn't even attempt. If it's that old and it's an antique, I just stick with a light load, 60, 70 grains, and work up a load just to shoot small game with it for nostalgia. But if you want to hunt deer with it, don't go above 90 would be my guess. But I'm not sitting there looking at it. So, you know, you can't do something like this. It's just give you an idea. But you need somebody that knows what they're doing to look at it, because even if it's not Damascus, if you take the barrels off and hang them by a thread and you tap it, does it go ding and ring like a bell? They're okay. If they go clunk, don't shoot it, because the webbing between the barrels, the solder has let go for whatever reason. Time, shock, age, rust, whatever. And it's not safe to shoot. So just hang them up by a thread, so by the tang or whatever, or just tie it some way onto the barrel where it'll hang up there, free hanging, and go hit it with something lightly. And if it rings like a bell, you know, you're probably safe to shoot it. If it doesn't, if it goes thud, do not shoot that gun. There's too big a chance for the barrels to separate when you pull the trigger. Just my 2 cents. Whew. Well, guys, thank you very much for all of it tonight. And then if you're shooting 3 grams, you should be fine. It'll kill. Guys, that's an hour and 44 minutes. I think we're going to call it quits for the night. Thank you all so much for dropping in. Again, I apologize for last week because of the internet was out and I just couldn't be there. I'm planning on being here next Thursday night. If anything comes up, I will try to post and let y'all know ahead of time. But Jonathan Frisbee, take care, brother. Get well. Looking forward to camping with you. Pink, everybody else, looking forward to camping with you. Well, guys, good night. Y'all have a great weekend. Be safe, and I'll see you next week. Good night.